She turned back, looked at her two friends, and waved. Then she walked over the crest of the hill and out of view. Her friends were 30 seconds behind her. A flat gravel trail, broad daylight, a path she had walked for 20 years. When they reached the top of that hill, she was gone. Not down the trail, resting on a bench, not anywhere visible in any direction. Gone. 150 searchers would spend the next 4 days covering 100 miles of trails, creeks, and forest. 9 separate K-9 teams would work the area. The bloodhounds would reach the exact spot where she vanished and begin circling and howling as though she had simply ceased to exist. No body has ever been found. No confirmed sighting. No explanation. This is the disappearance of Thelma Pauline Melton, known to everyone who loved her as Polly. Polly Melton was 58 years old, a retired school teacher from Jacksonville, Florida. Every fall, she and her husband Robert packed up their Airstream trailer and drove north to the mountains of North Carolina, to the same campground at the base of the Great Smoky Mountains, the same small cluster of families they had returned to year after year, for nearly 2 decades. Robert, Bob, was 78 years old, 20 years older than Polly, in poor health. He couldn't hike anymore, couldn't do much but stay in the trailer while she went out into the mountains she had come to know as well as any place on earth. While they were in North Carolina, Polly volunteered daily at the Bryson City Presbyterian Nutrition Center, serving meals to elderly residents. She reportedly never missed a day. Not once, in all the years she had been coming to these mountains. On September 24th, 1981, the day before she disappeared, she didn't sign up to volunteer. She offered no explanation. That same day, she used the phone at the nutrition center, the first time she had ever done so. In all her years of volunteering there, no long-distance charges appeared on the bill. The call was local. None of her family members remembered hearing from her that day. None of her friends did either. Whoever she called has never come forward. The morning of September 25th, 1981 was a Friday. Clear skies. Mid-80s. The kind of fall day the Smokies are famous for. Before she left, Polly prepared spaghetti sauce for dinner that night. She left it on the stove. She set out at around 3 in the afternoon with her 2 longtime friends, Trula Goodyear and Pauline Cannon, who everyone called Red. The Deep Creek Trail, 4 miles round trip, an easy hike, her favorite. The 3 women walked and talked the way old friends do. At some point, Red and Trula teased Polly about a man at the nutrition center, someone who was clearly interested in her. Polly brushed it aside, deflected the way a private person does, but she didn't deny it. Her friends noted something odd. Polly was walking more slowly than usual. They teased her about that too. "I wouldn't want to be in a foot race with you, Polly," one of them called out. Consider that for a moment. A 58-year-old woman, 2 packs of Virginia Slims a day, on medication for high blood pressure and nausea, walking slower than usual even by her own standards. That is the woman who was about to vanish from a flat gravel trail in under 30 seconds. At 4 o'clock, they reached the halfway point of the hike and turned back towards the campground. On one side of the path, deep creek, shallow from drought. On the other, a steep ridge. Nowhere to go except forward on the trail. Then Polly accelerated. Not jogging, not running, just walking fast. Faster than she'd been moving all day. Pulling ahead. putting distance between herself and her friends. When she was roughly 75 yards ahead, she reached the crest of a hill. She paused, turned back toward Trula and read, and waved. Then she walked down the other side, out of sight. Her friends weren't concerned. She was probably heading back to check on Bob. Maybe she needed a rest. They kept their pace and crested the same hill 30 seconds later. The trail was empty in both directions. There were benches along the path where hikers sometimes rested, all of them empty. Notably, there was a parking lot not far from where Polly was last seen. Cars were permitted on the road up to a certain point into the park. Red and Trula returned to the campground at 4:30. Bob hadn't seen her. Their husbands immediately went back to the trail and retraced the entire route. They questioned every hiker they passed. Nobody had seen a woman matching Polly's description that afternoon. Polly Melton was reported missing at 6 o'clock, 2 hours after she disappeared. The trail was closed to the public the next morning. Over the following 4 days, 150 searchers worked the area. 9K9 teams. 100 miles of trails, creeks, and dense forest combed methodically. No signs of struggle anywhere on or near the path. No indication that anyone had left the trail itself. There was one detail the searchers knew to look for. Polly's left shoe had a distinctive crack across the ball of the sole. Her footprints would have been uniquely identifiable, distinguishable from every other hiker on that trail. No prints were found. The bloodhounds reached the spot where Polly's friends had last seen her, and their behavior changed. They began trotting in circles, howling. One dog zeroed in on a fallen tree beside the path, the kind of log where tired hikers sometimes stop to rest. That was the last point of confirmed scent. And then, nothing, as though the trail simply ended. Park Ranger Dennis Burnett was direct about what the dogs were telling investigators. If she had been in the park, he said, the dogs would have found her. They were well trained. The family had their own argument against the search theory. Polly was terrified of snakes. The idea of her willingly stepping off a maintained trail and into dense forest undergrowth. Those who knew her said it was simply not possible. On October 2nd, 1981, 1 week after she vanished, park officials made a statement to the press. Their assessment, the evidence suggested Polly Melton had exited the park in a vehicle, probably of her own free will. Bob Melton was hospitalized the night his wife disappeared. He was too distraught to remain at the campground. When investigators spoke with him, he insisted there were no problems in their marriage, no reason she would leave. What he did notice was that his prescription bottle of Valium was missing. Police began looking more closely at the days leading up to the disappearance. The supervisor at the nutrition center told investigators something she hadn't expected to mention. Polly had skipped her Thursday shift without explanation, unusual, but she was a volunteer, so there was no obligation. What was harder to explain was the phone call, the one she made from the center's phone on the day before she vanished, the first time she had ever used that phone in years of volunteering there. No long-distance charges, a local call, to someone nobody in her life would admit to be. Her pastor, Tom Harris, spoke with investigators as well. He described Polly as recently sad, not suicidal in his view, but carrying something. He also told investigators he had reason to believe she had been involved with another man. He didn't elaborate on what led him to that conclusion, and no evidence was ever produced to confirm it. Her friends on the trail that day had mentioned the man at the nutrition center, the one who was clearly interested in her. Polly had changed the subject. Her father, Fred, had visited her that month, just weeks before the disappearance. He noticed nothing unusual, found her to be herself. He would spend the rest of his life insisting his daughter was still alive. The family's theory leaned toward foul play. Polly had been wearing jewelry the day she disappeared, a diamond-studded white gold wristwatch, her wedding ring. There was an area in the park known for drug activity called Poke Patch. But Poke Patch was miles from where Polly was last seen, and the section of trail where she vanished was populated, well-traveled, in broad daylight. No one heard a sound. Law enforcement's position was blunt. A woman of Polly's size, 5'11", nearly 180 pounds, could not have been forcibly removed from a public trail in seconds, silently, without a trace of struggle. Once the leaves fell that autumn, the park dispatched a helicopter for an aerial survey. Better visibility through the bare branches. No sign of a body anywhere in the search area. Then, 6 months later, in April of 1982, something happened. A check arrived at a bank in Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham, where some of Polly's family lived. It was a check made out to Thelma Pauline Melton for interest on a bank certificate. Someone cashed it on April 14, 1982. The bank teller had no recollection of the person who brought it in, could provide no physical description. Local resources didn't extend to hiring a handwriting expert to compare the signature to Polly's own. The identity of the person who cashed that check has never been established. There are 3 ways to read what happened to Polly Melton, and none of them close cleanly. The first is that she got lost. Disoriented, perhaps, her health conditions, the medication, the heat. Maybe she stepped off the trail and couldn't find her way back. The author, Juanita Baldwin, who researched this case for her book on Smoky Mountain Disappearances, dismissed this directly. If she had been lost, Baldwin wrote, the search was underway so quickly she would have been found. 150 searchers, 9 dog teams, a helicopter, 4 days. Nothing. The second is foul play. Someone on or near that trail, someone who knew the parking lot was close, who saw a woman walking alone wearing a diamond watch, and moved fast. But the trail was populated. The window was seconds. No screams. No disturbance. No witness to anything unusual. And the dogs who could track a scent through 100 miles of mountain terrain, found nothing past a fallen tree. The third is the one that keeps investigators awake. That Polly Melton knew exactly what she was doing. She had called someone the day before, someone local, someone who has never come forward. She had skipped her shift without explanation. She was walking slowly, as if she had somewhere to be, but not yet. She was aware of a man who wanted her attention. Her pastor believed she was already in a relationship she hadn't told anyone about. The parking lot was within reach of where she last appeared. A car could have been waiting. The road out of the park was a short drive away. And 6 months later, a check in her name cashed in the city where her family lived, by someone no one could describe. But then consider what she left behind. No money, no identification, no medication for conditions that require daily management. A husband who was hospitalized from grief the night she vanished, a man who depended on her, who had no one else. A father who refused to believe she was dead until he himself was dying. And no contact, ever, with anyone, in 44 years. The National Park Service still lists Thelma Pauline Melton as a missing person. not a cold case. Missing, because no one has ever closed it, because there is nothing to close. What is known is this. On September 25th, 1981, a 58-year-old woman walked over a hill on a flat gravel trail in the Great Smoky Mountains. She turned back. She looked at the two women she had known for years, and she waved. Whether that wave was goodbye or something else entirely is the question that has gone unanswered for over 4 decades. If you follow this case, or if you have a theory about what happened to Polly Melton, drop it in the comments below. I want to know what you think.